Jake Retzlaff is leaving BYU, but one interesting wrinkle, he wanted to join Utah football. We're going to discuss the latest report on today's Locked On Utes.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen and view of the day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. If it's your first time tuning into this show, make sure you like and subscribe. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. My name is JT Wistrcill, former intern inside the University of Utah Athletic Department. On today's show, we're going to talk about Gabe Madsen getting an opportunity in the NBA, also talking about Utah football's ascension as an elite program and the history and how they kind of got here. But first, have to start with massive news, and I think it's going to be the news that dominates, I wouldn't even just say Utah sports landscape this week, and I know free agency is going on, so the Jazz, but I genuinely think this is the story that is dominating college football right now. It's the fallout from the Jake Retzlaff story, and there's still so many wrinkles that are being brought up and just discovered in all of this. I mean, just Jake Retzlaff had the civil lawsuit against him, but now it was dismissed, but he did break the BYU honor code, so he was going to get suspended 7 games, therefore decided to transfer. Well, they knew this was coming, Jake Retzlaff did, so that's where the interesting wrinkles kind of come out and how Utah gets directly involved in Retzlaff's potential future home. So Alex Markham, friend of the show, Utah Rivals, reported, had a tweet where he said that here's the direct quote from Markham talking about the tweet that he put out earlier in the week. Figured I'd let the BYU reporters break the Retzlaff. Markham sent a cryptic tweet, basically. Retzlaff was suspended those 7 games and leaving the program. Hence, this is what I was alluding to. Additionally, 3 sources told me Retzlaff's agent shopped him to teams last week, including reaching out to Utah, which was an immediate no. Wow. So all of the craziness and everything that's going on, and Jake Retzlaff's agent trying to find a new home for him reached out to Utah to see if they were interested in. That's just, first of all, it's just insane. Like, this is where we're at. That's everything's happened. And we now mentioned too, the lawsuit has even now been dismissed too. So this is just a wild story. I mean, to put it simply. So, and Jake Hatch of Locked On Cougars has done a great job of covering all the intricacies, but today we're just going to talk about the Utah angle. First of all, Utah absolutely made the right decision to say no. They should not bring in Jake Retzlaff, and I'm not even talking about all the baggage now with the dismissal of the civil lawsuit. I'm just saying, simply put, I think Devon Dampier is going to be a better quarterback this season than Jake Retzlaff is too. So that's also why I think Utah made the right decision too. It's also funny. You can already see, like, on social media, some BYU fans, I'm sure some of them will be in the comments today, like already doing McKay Hillstead and the other guy, I think Bear something will be better than Retzlaff. And maybe they will. Here's how I view Jake Retzlaff. I view Jake Retzlaff as a top 10 Big 12 quarterback. I did not think he was a top 5 quarterback in this conference. I do think Devon Dampier is going to be better than him. I like Rocco Becht. I like Sawyer Robertson, obviously Sam Levitt, even Jalen Daniels. I'm hiring him, Josh Hoover. Those are just to name a few. Like, there are other guys that I could put on there as well. So this is a conference that's loaded with quarterbacks, but I didn't think Retzlaff was among the best. And I thought he was good last year, but also had a ton of inconsistencies in his game. Hence why he threw 12 interceptions. And yes, I know Utah's a QB who threw 12 interceptions. We'll talk about him in a moment. But last year, Retzlaff, 2,947 yards, 20 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, and his QBR was 61 overall. So Retzlaff, he was good, and he was better than good at times, but he also wasn't great, right? He had some rough moments, some rough games. I mean, you could even look at the bowl game, right? Like, BYU trounces Colorado, and he throws only 151 yards, 2 picks. So it's like, that's how good the team around him was last year too, right? You look at him in some of the bigger games against Arizona State, 23 for 38 overall, 346 yards, 2 interceptions. In that game against Oklahoma State, which BYU barely squeaked past, 2 interceptions. Also 2 interceptions against Baylor, 2 interceptions against SMU. So against some of the best teams he played, he wasn't as good. I mentioned he had some good moments, right? Where he had, a 3 touchdown game like he did against a Baylor, But even that one, you could look at the 3-touchdown game against Baylor. The BYU offense started red hot, and then they cooled off, and Baylor almost came back and won that game. So every time I watched Retzlaff play, I always felt like he was fine. He was accurate, but he was also inconsistent at times and left plays to be desired and would go out there and make mistakes too. That ended up costing his team. I mean, even you look at the Utah rivalry game last year. In that game, he threw 219 yards. That's fine, but even that, no touchdowns, sacked 3 times there. Also not the most mobile quarterback, 100 yards, only 417, never over 100 yards rushing in a single game. So I think Retzlaff's a limited quarterback. I think he was not a system quarterback, maybe too harsh, but I think he's a role player. Like, I don't think Jake Retzlaff is the best team on an elite Big 12 team. And he was not the best player on that BYU team last year. So I do think Utah made the right decision because Utah has a guy who has a chance to be one of the best teams on an elite and dynamic team. When you're comparing Retzlaff and Dampier, first of all, Devon Dampier, of course, going against G5 competitions, just keep that in mind. But so 2,768 yards, so a little bit less passing wise, 12 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. So he did throw obviously a lot more interceptions and a lot less touchdowns. But what we also must account for then is the rushing ability that Devon Dampier brings. Devon Dampier ran for over 1,000 yards last season, 1,166. He averaged 7.5 yards per carry, 19 touchdowns. He's also only a sophomore last year. That was only his second year. And yes, he played some his first year, but even more of a load in the second year. And this is a guy who's coming up. He's reuniting with his offensive coordinator. He's one of the most dynamic and dual threat quarterbacks that we have in the sport behind Utah's offensive line. Like this, just when you have a quarterback this athletic with the ability to make plays with his arm too, who was only sacked 4 times last year and is going to be playing behind an even better offensive line, I think Utah absolutely made the right decision to tell Retzlaff, no, we're good. And I don't think, and once again, like even outside of the baggage, I think you say no just with the baggage and everything going on right now. And I know the civil lawsuit was dismissed, but still, like, it's just, there's a lot there. So like, how do you perceive that? Do you really want to get involved with that? It's such a massive distraction. That's why I think Utah made the right decision saying no in that regard. But then even just, I've said before on this show, we even did a show in the past of who's a better QB, Retzlaff and Dampier. If you want to say right now, I think Jake Retzlaff is because of what he's done, that's fine. But I feel pretty strong that Dampier is going to make that leap, going to develop, and I do think he's going to be a better quarterback than Jake Retzlaff. Not the only one either. CBS Sports did a list of the top 10 quarterbacks in the country. Devon Dampier was on it. There's a lot of things to look at of Devon Dampier and go, okay, if you were looking for a very deep sleeper of a Heisman pick, I don't think Dampier is going to win the Heisman, but I do think there's a chance he's in the top 10 in the voting. He will have the moments, the wow plays, and I do think his numbers are going to be really good in this Utah offense. They're obviously doing some things to try and get the receiving talent around him there. Hopefully Tobias Merriweather can hit, but I just think he is going to shake defensive linemen out of their boots, able to stay up and avoid sacks. He's going to run for massive gains. His legs are the ultimate equalizer. I mean, or just give Utah the ultimate advantage. The defense can do everything right, and then he's going to be able to take off and make something happen. So I'm really high on Devon Dampier. I think he's going to have an amazing year, and I do think he will be better than Jake Retzlaff this season. And I think Utah was smart to tell BYU no as quick as they did. And I'm actually even surprised that BYU reached out about getting BYU's agent, Retzlaff's agent reached out about getting him to Utah, because I look at Utah clearly and I'm like, yeah, Utah's good. I will say, just to add something onto this intriguing, the Deseret News reports that he will transfer to another major college football team that is in desperate need of an experienced quarterback sometime this week. So that I'm very curious to see like what the timeline is, how soon Retzlaff does find a new school. Could be a school in the Big 12. I did my Big 12 rankings recently. There's a lot of QB needy teams in this conference. So curious to see where Retzlaff ends up. And I mean, since the civil lawsuit was dropped and settled out of court, I would assume he could play right away, but we'll see if he still ends up on Utah's schedule in the Big 12. Which team wants to bring in a guy like Retzlaff and throw off their quarterback room dynamic, because you already have a starter in place, but Retzlaff's going to be better than a lot of the starters at the school he's going to. So I'm very intrigued with how all that plays out. But yeah, Utah made the right decision. I'm really excited about what Devon Dampier can deliver, and I hope he delivers another season that has helped this Utah football team become they were at one of the forefront schools by the end of the Pac-12 era, and they're trying to stay a top 25 program. Obviously a couple down years, but if you look post 2000, they've been one of the top 25 teams. Can they remain there? And how has this Utah team become a new powerhouse? That's what we're going to discuss in one moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You have already been following along with the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. Whether I'm placing a same-game parlay or watching a bet ride into the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like I'm part of the action. New to FanDuel, new customers can just bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Whether it's MLB, baseball, obviously we also got the MLS going on, hockey, basketball, football, not in motion right now, but there's still plenty of summer sports going on, so you can head over and check it out on FanDuel today. FanDuel, bet $5 and if it's your first time, and you can get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins with FanDuel. Alrighty, let's talk about this Utah football team becoming the program that they have, because I do think it's something that sometimes we get, we're focused on the now, and obviously that's my job is to cover this team right now, but like if we take a step back and look at what Utah football has done, it is pretty remarkable, the progress they've made and the transformation they've made, obviously even before the days in the Mountain West, like where this program and this team has risen to now, where they were beating the likes of Oregon and USC in Pac-12 title games, where they're in a matchup with a school like Florida and a team that won the national championship going back to the late 2000s. And that's still a team that has a strong pedigree, and they make a trip to Rice-Eccles Stadium. And yes, obviously Utah lost there, but I'm just saying, like a couple years ago, Florida came out to Utah, and what happened? They got absolutely trounced by backup quarterbacks. Like, this is a Utah team that has done a great job building itself up. Kyle Whittingham deserves a monster amount of credit for that. The Morgan Scallies, the other assistants who've been here for so long, do as well too. And even going back to Urban Meyer, obviously deserves a lot of credit as well too. In fact, this Utah team has become so much of a juggernaut and a powerhouse that in a recent college football list, Front Porch Sports, we've talked about before, a Twitter account on X you can go and find. They make a ton of sports posts about college football and just rankings and compiling lists. They had a list called New Bloods. So what New Bloods are, like new emerging things and just something that, is part of a new collection, basically. So his list of New Bloods, basically new programs that have risen to a new level or just have found a new footing on the forefront of college football: LSU, TCU, Florida State, Oregon, Georgia, Boise State, OSU, Clemson, Utah. Obviously, one of those things is not some of these, or not one of, but some of these programs are not like the other, right? LSU, Florida State, Georgia, and Clemson have all won national championships. TCU and Oregon, although TCU obviously much more in line with Utah, but and obviously some of those teams, powerhouse, mentioned the Georgias. Oregon is another team that's very strong as well too. But you look at the Boise States, the Oklahoma State, the Utah, the TCU. I think the reason they're on this New Bloods list is because of how they've transformed their perception. And genuinely, it's hard to tell the story of certain college football seasons without their inclusion. I'm not saying you can't leave them out, because obviously Utah has yet to make a college football playoff, but man, what this Utah team's done, they kept Oregon out of the college football playoff. They kept USC out of the college football playoff, and back-to-back years, they were part of the most historic bowl game in the history of the sport, in the Rose Bowl. The one against Ohio State was one of the best Rose Bowls we've ever seen, even. And the one against Penn State, I think it would have been fun if Cam Rising didn't get hurt. Penn State probably still wins it, but I wish I would have liked to see that still. But either way, Utah has put themselves on the map. If the 12-team playoff had been a thing a couple of years ago, Utah is in not one, but two college football playoffs. And honestly, I should even say three. That 2019 team that was two losses, regular season loss, conference title game loss. Okay, with the way they lost, maybe they would have had a hard time getting in. Just we know the SEC and Big Ten bias, but they would have been right there. So maybe three times if we had the 12-team playoff in the past decade, Utah gets in. And that's where this Utah team's ascension must be highlighted and credited. And I think we get frustrated by the 5-7 and the 8-5 season, right? But let's not forget, before that, the last three full college football seasons, yep, I'm taking COVID out, 10-4, 10-4, 11-3. And of course, two Pac-12 titles in there, and a team that lost in the Big 12 title game, the Pac-12 title game at the time too. And that's obviously without even mentioning some of the other monster seasons that this Utah team has had along the way, right? And We could even go back and look at obviously the team that beat Alabama, going back to that season, what Alex Smith was able to do, what Brian Johnson, well, Alex Smith just when he was here, right? Then Brian Johnson, what Eric Weddle was able to do, right? I mean, Utah having that 13-0 undefeated season, following that up with back-to-back 10-3 seasons. Then you go in the Pac-12, and it takes time to build yourself up, but even go to 2014, 9 wins, 10 wins, 9 wins, 7 wins, 9 wins, 11 wins. So all of a sudden, boom, bowl eligibility. And yeah, they finally lost that last year, but this is a team and a program. You look at like some of the CFP final rankings that Utah's had. So once again, like among these emerging these new bloods, and you're looking at like, hey, teams that belong among the conversations, the 25 best programs in the sport. You look at the 22 season, Utah finished 8th in the final CFP ranking. They finished 11th in 21. They finished 11 in 2019. They finished 17th in 2018, 19 and 16, and 22nd in 2015 and 14. So once again, what has this Utah team done? Put themselves in the fabric of the story of a college football season, being involved in the top 25 rankings, right? And even some of these years, they've worked themselves up to being even higher. I mean, the highest Utah at one point was ranked number 5 in the AP poll and number 5 in the CFP, going back to that 2019 season. Tyler Huntley, Zach Moss. So this is a Utah team that has been a part of the conversation. I can still remember listening to those talks about like, hey, is this Utah team a college football playoff team? Like that was something a lot of people had to ask and figure out because that's what they were doing. I mean, this Utah team was pushing and challenging for those spots. So I do believe Utah deserves their spot among the new bloods listed. Obviously in LSU, we said like won national championships, but teams like a TCU, a Boise State, an Oklahoma State, a Utah, they've all challenged for conference championships. Some, and all of those actually have won conference championships. Some have made the playoff. A TCU, a Boise State have, and then you have a Utah and Oklahoma State who have been right there so many times before. And one of the things on here that he put on here is his criteria to get on this new bloods list. So that's why you don't see Alabama's not on here. Alabama's been good forever. Like that's why new bloods, and it's 2000 to 2025. So that's why I mentioned going back to the games, like when Utah beat, when Brian Johnson and them go out and they beat Alabama, right? That's part of this conversation. Utah becoming a Pac-12 team, then to beating some of the powerhouses that they were able to, right? Like that's all a part of this conversation in total. His criteria for this list: Front Porch Sports, national championships, conference titles, Utah, bowl wins, also Utah. I know they have a stretch where they haven't won bowl games, but they've done it before. Heisman winners, not Utah. All-Americans, done that. NFL draft picks, most among any team in the Big 12 currently. And this list excludes blue bloods overall, he does mention. So that's why you don't see a Bama in here. You don't see a Notre Dame in here. But I think it's really cool that Utah's on this list, and it does show the ascension that this team has made as a sport. And I think they belong here. When you get when we are ranking the top programs in college football, once you get to TCU, Oklahoma State, Boise State, Utah is right in there. Some of those programs get the extra nod, like an LSU, Florida State, Georgia, Clemson. They've all won national championships, but Utah is that next tier of team that's like, ooh, they contend for their conference frequently. And in this new playoff era, we'll have a chance to make some college football playoffs. Not national championship contenders, but not all teams in the top 25. From 2000 to 2025, Utah has been one of the top 25 programs in college football because of that success, because of the winning, because of the culture that Kyle Whittingham has established that's made it just a long day to play against Utah anytime you're going against them too. So I love that Utah is on this list. I think they deserve to be on this list too. And I think this team is going to get back to being a top 25 program this season. I think Utah, I've said before on this show, I really think this Utah team is going to be right there in the Big 12. I did a Big 12 ranking the other day, and there were a number of teams. I really think there's about 10 to 12 teams I can make the case for. And yes, obviously you could technically do 16 after what Arizona State did last year, everyone coming together, and it worked really well for the Sun Devils. But I really look at 12 teams that I could see winning this conference, and Utah is absolutely one of those teams. I think they got a great chance to bounce back. This is supposed to be Kyle Whittingham's swan song. You look at the pieces you added offensively and the returners and pieces defensively. It's a good mix. Utah's going to be good up front on the offensive line. They have a game changer at quarterback. I think this team gets back to being a new blood of college football, and I do think they're back to being a top 25 program, which is what this list is kind of a part of in a way to me too. But either way, do you guys think Utah is a new blood? I like that they're on here because of the wins they've had, the big moments they've come through. I think Kyle Whittingham, what he's built, the legacy, the reason he's going to have a statue is in large part because, not mainly, but you know what I mean. He's gotten Utah on lists like this because of the rise that Utah football has had. Speaking of rising, Gabe Madsen is going to earn himself a chance to rise up into the NBA ranks. He's competing in the NBA Summer League. How's he going to do? What team is he on? We're going to discuss in a moment. So Gabe Madsen was not drafted in the 2025 NBA draft. Utah had Brennan Carlson go undrafted last year. And yeah, no one was really talking about Gabe Madsen getting drafted. So we weren't really surprised by that. But he does earn an NBA opportunity, as John Chepkovich, I believe it's pronounced, put it. Utah's Gabe Madsen, and this comes from his X account. Utah's Gabe Madsen will join Golden State Warriors for the NBA Summer League, I'm told. The 6'5.5" sharpshooter made 100+ threes each of the past 2 seasons, finishing as Utah's all-time three-point leading shooter. He's the 89th ranked prospect in his personal rank in his, or not personal, but his site rankings too. So obviously then very high on Madsen's ability as well. And I'm really excited that Madsen gets the chance to look. Is Gabe Madsen a splash brother? No, but he is known for his three-point shooting. Obviously, that's what the Warriors are as well, too. And I think it's really exciting. He's going to get this opportunity from Rochester, Minnesota to Cincinnati to 4 years with this Utah basketball program. I love that Gabe's getting a chance in the NBA. And all you need is a chance in the Summer League. We've had some Utah guys get their opportunities recently. I think a Booth Gotch got some time. A Timmy Allen got some time. Brandon Carlson was there last year. Also, I was looking. Brandon Carlson was not listed on the Thunder Summer League roster, at least the last I checked. I'd be surprised if he wasn't playing there. He had a nice, like a fine rookie year, but obviously did not play much. Like he just very much fits the bill of a Summer League guy, an opportunity to continue to refine and improve his skills as he tries to carve out a larger role. Like it's just hard to play on the OKC team, but carve out a role with an NBA team, right? One other fun wrinkle, Mr. Triple-Double from a season ago, not this most recent one, but 2 years ago, Devon Smith, after going to St. John's, he's also in Summer League. He's going to be on the Atlanta Hawks, so I think that's cool too that he's going to get an opportunity. It's going to, once again, another guy, it's probably going to be tough for him to make the league, and it's going to be very hard for Gabe Madsen to make the league. But the one thing that Gabe Madsen does have going for him, is he can absolutely shoot the lights out from three. We just mentioned it. Utah's all-time leader from three-point range. And I'm not putting a lot of stock into the fact that he only shot 32% from three last year. Maybe I should, but honestly, I look at it like this. He was the man on this Utah team, and I don't think that's a role that he should have had. So that forced him to take a lot of incredibly hard shots. And your three-point percentage is going to go down when you shoot those incredibly hard shots. For example, if Gabe Madsen is in the NBA, yeah, like team scouting wise would not leave him open, but like you're just game planning for other guys. If Gabe Madsen's your catch and shoot guy in the corner, that thing is automatic. Like it's going in. Like he's going to have, and if given the opportunity, the spacing, and hopefully in Summer League, it's always a balance. Like, hey, who's just out there to get theirs versus who's moving the ball? Hopefully he gets with some guys that are willing to move the ball, because we know that range is incredibly impressive. This is a guy who scored over 500 points, as we mentioned, in back-to-back season. He's a guy who hit 100 threes back-to-back years in a row, too. And I would also add, just on incredible difficulty a lot of time as well, too. He also improved his defense. If you look at it, the last 2 years of his collegiate career, 48 steals in 23-24. Then last year, 33 steals as well, too. So, and yeah, he's turned it over a little bit, but we said he probably had the ball in his hands a little bit more than he should have. He averaged 12 points per game last year, 2.7 rebounds, 1.9 assists, 39% from the field. But even that, you're like, 39% from the field. Yeah, it was all threes and so many off the dribble and around screens and just incredibly angles, incredibly difficult. But Gabe Madsen has the ability and the potential to take over a game. He can hit. There was a game against Washington a couple years ago I still remember going to, and he's just lighting it up, and it's just awesome to watch. So I do think he has a chance to make a strong impression on the Warriors. I would guess he makes the summer. I would guess he has a chance to make their G League roster. It's going to be very tough to make their NBA roster, but I'm excited that he has this opportunity, right? There was obviously, he thought about going last year, had some NBA interest, ends up coming back, and I'm glad that he is now in the Summer League and has an opportunity to showcase his talent and skills on a team as well, too, where, like I said, last year, he's not the guy. He wasn't cut out to be that on a great college basketball team. He's not cut out to be that on a great NBA team. But he's a great shooter. He was a great collegiate shooter. He's the greatest. He's made more threes than any other Utah men's basketball player ever. Like, that has to count for something. So he's an incredible marksman, and I'm glad he's getting his chance. In a league that values three-pointers as much as the NBA does, I really hope that Gabe Madsen gets a shot. Just like going back to Brandon Carlson, I want him to get a shot somewhere else. Like, the Brooklyn Nets have a bunch of guards, right? And now they have Michael Porter Jr. and Cam Thomas, so all the memes are about them just taking a billion shots. Like, go get Brandon Carlson. Maybe he can be their backup center, or maybe even backup's probably a lot, but like their third center who can come in at times and give them something off the bench. I would love to see it. I just want to see more Gabe Madsen. I want more Carlson. Excuse me, Brandon Carlson, more Gabe Madsen, more Utes in the NBA. That's what I want to see. Alex Jensen's coming up to try and make it happen. But yeah, I'll definitely be tuning in the summer league to see what Gabe Madsen can do. Also hoping Devon Smith has some success as well. And same thing if we do end up seeing Brandon Carlson. But let me know your guys' thoughts. What do you want to see this Utah? Do you like that Utah didn't go after Jake Retzlaff? How do you feel about Utah's ascension amongst that new blood list? I really like it. As I mentioned, I feel like it's very fitting. And even just like leave your thoughts when you take back and reflect on how far this program has come, right? Also, talk to me what you think about Gabe Madsen and Utes in the NBA. Kyle Kuzma still in Milwaukee. DeLon Wright, I think he's a free agent, so trying to find a new home for him. Jakob Poeltl is still doing his thing in Toronto. And hopefully some of the guys on this year's roster can be future pro Utes, but that remains to be seen. Thank you guys again so much for making Locked On Utes your first listen and view of the day. A reminder, if you are in the market for a second listen every day, you not only have Locked On College Football, Locked On Big 12, all of our other Big 12 shows, but you do have the Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to college football's landscape. Find the Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. We'll be back with you tomorrow talking more things Utah athletics. I'm JT Wistrcill. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope to see you again tomorrow. As always, go Utes.